My name is Jack Kelly. Fix it in post. What's going on, everybody? My name is Jack Kelly, host of Point to the Spot, a US-based podcast focused on the world of football. Joining me today, my entirely bonkers friend, Reed Hammond, back from the podcasting, no man's land. Reed, how are you?
I'm good. I'm refreshed. Reassured. Um, Point to the spot. Power word resilient. All the R's.
Also joining the show tonight, a future presidential candidate, Ball for Pres 2020. I can't stand Donald Trump's America. Andrew, how are you, my friend?
I'm well. What our viewers don't know is that Reed actually got a 5-match ban for shoving a referee.
Hey, we tried to keep that under wraps. Why'd you go and reveal leaks?
I'm like Ryan's man. I just leak. I leak like Niagara Falls.
Well, boys, we are all back together. The Premier League is also back. The unifying force of this podcast, because, well, let's be honest, it's not friendship. We're kidding. Big weekend. Some surprising results. Some telling results. We've seen one match week, and now we know what's going to happen in the next 37 results. Andrew, please enlighten us. What was the biggest takeaway for you after match day one?
So Reed is going to make some sweeping generalizations about how Chelsea are bad. He is dumb because we're 1 week in and can't really make any generalizations about anything.
RT.
I think the one thing that is safe to say, though, and I think it's going to be the craziest Premier League in recent memory for teams 7th through 20th. I think there's a pretty clear top 6. Sorry, Everton. All that money you spent on 50 billion attacking midfielders is not going to get you in the top 6, probably.
RT
for
again.
Everyone else, it's going to be wild. Like, any one of those teams, pretty much, I think, on any given week can beat another team. And that's like some MLS level parity right there. Huddersfield drubbing Palace 3-0. Watford hanging with Liverpool, nicking a result there. Like, all of these teams are capable of doing that, and they all have intriguing players to watch. I think, Jack and I, we had a failed podcast yesterday thanks to a storm ripping through the Madison metro area. My point there, though, my one coherent point from last night still stands. I think a lot of when it comes down to who's going to overachieve in the mid-tier teams and who might be the shock team to go down, because it always seems like at the beginning of the year, there are 3 bad teams who are going to go down, and one of them at least stays up and one other team goes down. That really the differences are not going to be that much. It's going to come down to who can stay healthy and keep their core elite players healthy and who can't. And, at this point, when we all did our point to the spot predictions, it was pretty much impossible. Like, you were drawing lots to figure out who was going to finish 10th versus 11th. I think, a lot of ink is going to be spilled over who finishes top 4 and who is going to, because within the top 6 teams, there's a lot of uncertainty. But I think the real races to watch is pretty much everything on down, because there's a lot of intrigue and a lot of unpredictability.
I would definitely agree with you on that. I think I said this also last night. I think one of those teams that could be in danger is a team like Stoke, who on the surface level has a lot of quality in Shaqiri, and they got Kurt Zouma from Chelsea on loan for the season, but didn't even put up a fight against a, let's be honest, lackluster going forward Everton side last weekend, who only managed to get a decent result at home in their opener on a Wayne Rooney wonder header. So I do agree. I think this is going to be a very, very competitive Premier League. 7 through 20.
Also, who steps up on in basketball, it's the 6th man, but, depth matters in the Premier League, even if you're not in Europe. And, who that we aren't talking about on these teams steps up and makes contributions, I think is going to matter. Hull had a lot of those guys, and it almost kept them up, a team that really deserved to finish dead last. So I'll be intrigued. Reed, what's your takeaway? I know you're going to have a really bad take. So
Okay,
get it over with.
Cool. On the Stoke news, like, just want to point out, not only do they have Kurt Zuma on loan, they also have Hesse, a Real Madrid rising star who went to Paris and then Stoke. So,
Okay, rising
you
star.
know,
He stunk for PSG.
yeah, he's stuck at PSG, but like he was like a super sub, like, almost a household name by the end of it at Real Madrid. Then he flopped in Paris, and he thought like, well, I kind of got to balance off like the city I'm living in. Like maybe that's the coefficient messing with my game. Stoke.
Stoke have a way of signing these guys who are like they're not trying to like play attractive
Don't know
football.
why. I don't know how.
I feel like it's not gonna work out. Anyway, sorry, Reed. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, the thing I've been saying, I've been touting this since the last stretch of last season when Chelsea were had those moments of uncertainty, was I was saying Conte found a beautiful system. He has a beautiful humming team, but it's already at that point it was a very thin roster, and even now it's somehow worse. And there's like 15 days, like 13 days left of the window. So it's hard to think that they're going to plug those holes in that time and not have to pay throughout, like, not have to pay the GDP of a small Eastern European country for those players because people know they need them. The issue is that the roles that these players play and the way the system is set up for me, and I think it's like if you watch Chelsea week in, week out, you can see it, that they are two player personnel specific in this system. Like that Huddersfield Town team that we saw this weekend thump Palace, a Palace team that I don't have a ton of hope for in a larger sense, kind of an interesting microcosm in itself. But that Huddersfield Town team, you can plug and play with whoever you want to do with that, that whole idea of, Terriers football, where it's just like a slightly updated Jurgen Klopp gegenpressing. Like it's a system oriented team, but the personnel, it's not like a system built on personnel. It's a system built on an idea. And Conte's Chelsea team is a system built on extraordinarily specific personnel. We still don't know how Hazard's going to do after that, like that, I think it was an ankle break over the summer. Like there are huge question marks over the fundamental ways that this Chelsea team are going to play. And, you can't say like we saw it, in the first match week, but it's definitely like if that is how that looked there, an average Chelsea team playing, rather averagely, like imagine when over the course of this season when we see what could be systemic issues come up.
I actually think that's an interesting point, Reed. Eden Hazard, I think, once he gets his fitness back, will be fine. He's a proven player in the Premier League. But I think an interesting case is they went and spent all that money on Bakayoko from Monaco, and he is injured in the preseason, has not played a Premier League game yet, and is just kind of going to get thrown into it in the third or fourth match of the season, which could not be a worse learning curve for a player in the Premier League who's going to have a big role on the field. I think that's an interesting point. Andrew, are you concerned about Chelsea's depth at all?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Spurs, Arsenal, and Poole don't have great depth either. I mean, I think Reed makes a good point in that they are very personnel dependent, but I mean, they had some of these issues last year and did fine. They weren't great the first month and a half of last year and did fine. Like, it's a long game. And I mean, like, if you want to make hot takes about how they're going to do in the start of the season, go ahead. But I mean, I want to see how they're doing in 3 months. And you might be right, Reed, and that's fine. But like, I think this is a team that's built for the last half of the season, not the first half.
Like, yeah, in that they are, a team full of grizzled veterans. It's just like that. Like a great example is like Liverpool. Like you can mix and match that entire top four into whatever, Frankenstein team you want, and they're going to get you 2 goals no matter what. But like that Chelsea team, like it's all so specific. And even if you do plunge in and get 3 or 4 first team players, which is genuinely what they need, like going into Spurs away, I think it is this weekend for Chelsea, they like it's some question who's going to play in their midfield. Like they are literally down 1 central midfielder. So how they even react to that on the second week of the season, having a literal injury crisis, is going to be, a very interesting thing from Conte. And Conte is the kind of guy who will walk away from something like this. You know, he sees himself as someone who's won it all. And it's not like he's going to take the easy way out and just say, I quit. But if he doesn't get his way to shear up big holes that he sees, which I think a lot of people see at this point, like there's like a huge chance that in the middle of September, he says, yeah, I'm done. I'm going back to Italy. This is dumb. London sucks.
I mean, yeah, but I think both Chelsea and Conte deserve the benefit of the doubt.
I agree. I think one other point to make on the Chelsea is that I expect them to have at least 8 more games this season. I expect them to get out of their Champions League group, whatever that may be, as the English champions should, and maybe make it past that round of 16. Who knows? English teams don't fare 100% well.
I actually disagree. I think the Champions League is where that lack of depth is going to hurt them.
I mean, that's what I mean. Like, they're going to have to play that midweek, and so going back and forth with this short squad,
depending on their group, I'm not sure they make it out of the group stage.
Yeah, I mean,
that to me is not a team that fares particularly well in Europe.
True. I mean, I go back and forth on this a little bit.
Well, it's gonna be a situation where like some teams are built like Arsenal is a great example, and it's why they get into the round of 16 pretty much like clockwork, or at least every year before now. Is that it's a team that you can play half of a first team, and then play the other half on the Premier League weekend. You know what I mean? Like, there's enough squad fluidity and ability to integrate different players into the Wednesday to Saturday that you don't have to play the same guys in the same spots every match for the team to work as it's built. And that Chelsea team, like, it doesn't totally lend itself like that. And the players that can kind of fill those gaps because they've had to over the past, like what's the young man who just got sold to Watford?
Andre Gray?
Chalobah for Chelsea. Kind of learned how to play half of the Matic role and half of the Fabregas role. And Ruben Loftus-Cheek was kind of in a similar situation where that learned how to do a little bit of both, but neither that well, but good enough for 60 minutes. And they're both gone. So I think these are going to be questions that they'll need to answer. And it could be a dumpster fire, and I'm definitely hoping for one.
Jack, what's your takeaway?
So I thought long and hard about this one. My biggest takeaway from the weekend, and we're not allowed to talk about our favorite teams, but this isn't about my favorite team. It's about a player on the team that my favorite team played. Maguire is stupid good at center back for the Premier League. He is technically quick with his feet. He is massive. I was really, really impressed. He was just bailing out Wes Morgan's lazy ass the entire game, and I think that he could be a key to Leicester's success this season, and I feel bad that he was on such a shitty Hull team last year.
Reed always takes bows for when he's right. There was someone on this show, I think, who said that Harry Maguire and Leicester had a really good transfer window. I wonder who that was.
I wasn't present for that podcast, but I do give you credit because I think it's a very good move for them. Leicester struggled a lot last season, and they were very short at center back, especially with Huth. I don't even know what fully happened to him, injury, transferred out, whatever it might have been. But Maguire, oh my God, he is a rugby player of a center back who is a very good passer. I mean, he scored some good goals for Hull last season when he was up there, if he picked a ball up on the top of the D after a corner, whatever it may be. No, I was impressed by Maguire. I think that he, in a lot of ways, could be won't make a team of the year because he's playing for Leicester, but could be a very influential signing of the season kind of player.
He's perfect for Leicester because he is everything that Wes Morgan is, a physical presence, and he's also everything Wes Morgan is not, high energy, strong out, distributing out of the back.
And he's also, not the second dirtiest player in the Premier League behind, the two-headed dragon that is, Robert Huth, Wes Morgan, as a tie for one because they're inseparable because they're terrible. Diego Costa, yeah.
Ill-fated point to the spot bar fight bracket challenge.
Yeah. Oh my God.
They should.
My greatest idea.
So Jack, what are you most looking forward to this weekend then?
Do we want to cut and come back in and do this with a short intermission?
Yeah, because I'm going to cut out that end when I say it because it was dumb.
Okay. I'm just going to outro and then we can come back in.
Cool.
All right, guys, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we are going to talk about what the three of us are most looking forward to for this upcoming Premier League match day. So stick around. I like how seamlessly we can just make decisions in the middle of a show now.
Yeah. Okay. I think the plan for pod future is going to be like, ideally I'd like to run 2 a week. Don't need to, but ideally. And then I think as a, not as a joke, but as a recurring bit could be in the intermission. I will read off, or never mind. It only really works this week. It only really works this week because I wanna just at the end of this I'll read off the point of the spot predictions.
Oh, okay.
In my head I was gonna do it kind of how they on FIFA they used to read off the scores.
Yeah.
Like how BBC One used to do back in the day. I wanted to do that, and then I thought oh wait, it doesn't really update every week, and never mind.
Okay. Well, cool. We're coming back in 5, 4, 3, 2. Welcome back to part 2 of the show, guys. As I mentioned, we're going to talk about what the three of us here at Point to the Spot are most looking forward to for match day 2 in the Premier League. Reed, I'll turn it over to you to start on this one. Kind of a tasty selection of games this week. West Ham on the road again, I know, against Southampton, who is finding it impossible to score. But besides, Chicharito maybe getting a breakthrough, what are you most looking forward to for match day 2?
What I'm most looking forward to is whether or not Aaron Ramsey can keep going in this new role he's kind of found, because I really do like that from him. I think we're going to see the Ramsey that we saw, against Barcelona away. We're going to see the Ramsey that everyone's always waited for because of the emergence of Granit Xhaka as an actual proper baller in that midfield. He used to just be people thought of him as just, this lump in the middle of the park from Eastern Europe. But no, man, that game against Leicester, even if honestly, it's one of those games where, I had a take about this. I think it was in the FA Cup final where, when Ramsey scored, and I thought he had a terrible game despite scoring. Granit Xhaka had a great game, and then also got 2 assists against Leicester. You know what I mean? If he didn't have those 2 assists, people would still be all about him. He did so well. And I think since he's taking that new role that, perhaps a better Santi Cazorla-esque deep-lying playmaker, it's allowing Aaron Ramsey to run with the ball. It's allowing Aaron Ramsey to be heard. And I think especially if they stick with this 3-in-the-back situation, although, with this center back drought the currently in, we'll see how that works out in the next couple weeks. But I would love to see, as people often like to make the statement with Pogba, a liberated Aaron Ramsey.
I love it. I absolutely love it. Ramsey was terrific in his cameo appearance, but I thought Xhaka was quite good. Andrew, what are you most looking forward to for this for match day 2?
The Carabao Cup, no doubt. Aston Villa, Wigan, throwing it back to EPL circa 2007. I love it. Actually, okay. So the match, I can't really say Spurs Chelsea because that's what literally everyone is saying. It's going to be a tantalizing match, but the match I'm going to be watching from my humble abode in Baltimore, Maryland, is Manchester City Everton. I think, we get to see City against a quality opponent, which will be interesting because they didn't exactly throttle Brighton in that first match. And we also get to see Everton against, one of the favorites to win the title. And as Jack said, they were underwhelming, I think, against a mediocre at best Stoke team. Now we'll get to see all those new signings all in their glory at the Etihad against Manchester City. It should be a fun tie. Well worth, I think, sneaking off at work to stream on your phone.
Yeah. No, that that Manchester City Brighton game was one of those where I feel like at the start of the game in the back, like the two managers in the tunnel genuinely could have said, all right, yeah, just, City, you're going to win. We're not going to injure anybody. Just don't make it look too bad. Like, it was one of those, like, what's the Italian word that they use to describe that whole, like, big Juventus match fixing thing? Because it was, like, literally neither team played well, and it was the exact result both teams wanted. Like, Brighton are not going to stay up in the Premier League from, playing City. Like, those are never the matches that they're going to, circle on the calendar and say, boys, we need at least a point from this if you want to play in the Premier League next season. And City honestly like played poorly, and they played like a weird side trying to play with two up top and didn't really fit Pep's whole mantra. So yeah, that was ridiculous.
Quick note, all you conspiracy theorists out there, please direct your tweets to @that1kid and not the show Twitter account. I don't want to have to deal with that shit.
No, it's not that they did that. I'm saying like it's one of those like, both sides got exactly what they're looking from that game.
You're not saying it's like the Algeria West Germany match fixing.
Not yet. But with some of these figures being tossed around, you always wonder.
I've got City beating Everton 5-0 on Monday. Just gonna put that out there. At Eric Van Tubergen. You can find him on Twitter at EVEETEE.
You can also find him in our group message talking about the Europa League qualifier games against Hajduk Split. Like, I don't care. Like, no one cares. It's such an uninteresting game to talk about in the group message.
For those of you wondering, Hajduk Split finished third in the Croatian Super League last year. Really, really top competition to facing off against the team that finished 7th in England, mind you. Thing I'm most looking forward to this weekend, I also am very much looking forward to the Manchester City-Everton game, but we've already talked about that. A different match, perhaps an even more exciting, kind of opening act to the Tottenham-Chelsea game on Sunday. Huddersfield-Newcastle. Huddersfield gets to play their home debut. Okay, they just piped Palace on the road 3-0. Can the new boys, against some more new boys, potentially start the season 2 for 2, pick up 3 more points, 6 points? They only need 30 more from 36 more games if they want to be safe in the Premier League. 36 is usually the number that you need. I'm pretty excited. Pretty excited about that. Huddersfield they just get it done in like the weirdest ways. I'm going to botch his name. Mooney, right? Mooney. Their young striker was bonkers against Palace.
No, there's like an accent on his E.
Mounier?
Like Mounier, yeah.
He's Ivorian. He's from the Côte d'Ivoire.
Yeah, it's crazy.
No, he's from Benin.
I thought he was Ivorian.
Nope, he's from Benin.
Oh, well, he's been really good. I'm interested to see.
I know my African football. Don't fuck with me.
I'll be interested to see how Huddersfield does in their home debut, whether the adrenaline gets to them or they go out and make a statement to everybody else in the Premier League like, hey, we didn't really actually win a single fucking game in the championship playoffs last season, but we're going to stick around in the Premier League because dollar bills, y'all. Yeah, I don't know. Do you guys have anything to say about these Huddersfield-Newcastle showdown that's taking place on Sunday?
I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I love David Wagner. I love the style football he preaches. And going up against Rafa in their home debut in the Premier League, that's going to be pretty fun. I agree with you on that. I might be sleeping in to catch Chelsea-Tottenham, so, I might not actually watch it. But in an alternate world where I was up, I would definitely watch it.
Yeah, that Newcastle side, not to make stupid broad conclusions from the first game. I think my broad conclusions from the Chelsea game were spot on. That Newcastle side have the hallmarks of what could be another Newcastle dumpster fire because, like, I love them. I love Rafa. I love some of the players in that team, but and I love to see St. James Park back in the Premier League. That's a beautiful stadium. And it, deserves to have Premier League opposition in it. But, Jonjo Shelvey, despite being a West Ham lad through and through, when your captain gets sent off like that after playing a poor game before it, like, it's just it's just a bad look, man. It's got to put some fear in some of those Geordies' spines because, they're doing that thing that people always say not to, which is, rely on the same people that got you goals in the championship in the Premier League. It's about the same thing you can generally rely on the same defense. You can generally rely on, the same wingers. But it's something about putting the ball in the back of the net that it just doesn't ever seem to translate. And to pin all your hopes on Dwight Gale, Crystal Palace fans will tell you it's a hard life to live.
All I have to say about Jonjo Shelvey is going to Jonjo Shelvey, and that was peak Jonjo.
Jonjo Shelvey is an interesting case of like almost he's like the Pirlo of English football in that like he's almost universally loved. You know what I mean? Like he grew up being a West Ham fan. So West Ham fans like him. He had that stint in I think it was Swansea. So Swansea fans like have a good thought towards him. He had some time in Liverpool, and Liverpool fans still have a good idea of him in his head. Now he's Newcastle's captain. Perhaps not next week after that red card. And might not get the armband back for a while. But you know what I mean? Like he just settles into clubs so well.
Dude, literally every fan base hates him because he's a thug.
And that's why people who he's associated with love him. You know what I mean? Like
he's our thug.
Exactly.
That's
like
what makes him perfect for West Ham because their fans are thugs. So
no, yeah. Like every Chelsea fan loves John Terry. And I'm sure every Villa fan will love John Terry. Like he literally said, "Oh yeah, I could retire, or I could go to this team called the Villains." Yeah.
Okay, but
no prize guessing where I'm going.
Of English football.
Yeah, in that Pirlo he played for Juventus, Inter Milan, and AC Milan.
Okay. Jack, bring it on home, man.
Well, John Terry very may well have sacked your wife and maybe a villain of the Premier League. Well, I guess the championship now. I'm going to go ahead and be the villain of this podcast and wrap it up. Thank you guys all very much for listening. Of course, you can find us all on the Twitterverse, on the social, as one Reed Hammond would like to refer to it. Reed, where can they find you on Twitter?
As Andrew's already stated, at that one kid Reed.
And Mr. Ball, where can they find you?
At Andrew Ball, BAHL.
Of course, guys, you can find me at actual Jack Kelly. I am actually Jack Kelly. After all, make sure to check out the show at Point to the Spot with the number 2. If you enjoyed the show, leave us a review on iTunes. We, love to hear from you, whatever you may have to say. But for now, that's all. We'll be back at some point over the weekend or early next week. TBD on that. But until then, take care.
Reed, you might have to unrecord.
Yeah, sorry.